oh my God, I'm so excited for you to move to Champaign-Urbana because it's so great. And I miss it already. And I left like a month ago.
This is Champaign is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Champaign is Also a Band podcast is proud to be a part of the Champaign Showers Podcast Network. Welcome to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. Today I have Juli Sherry, who you may know in so many bands such as Quarters Only, Catch a Tiger, Arctic Fox, Ham Shabam, Mutt, The Early 30s, Plume, Snacked Out, A Small Meaningless Rebellion, and Gay Meat. So, Juli, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
So today we're actually going to be talking about the formation, the execution, the fantastic Pretzle Records.
Yes.
You know, I think the idea that is burning on everyone's mind is, what made you want to start a record label?
That's a great question that actually we've heard a lot. People always ask us this, and I wish we had like a really cool story of like, we met in a cave and there was an amazing band playing or something like that. But honestly, Doug and I were just like trying to start a new music project one day. And I think we were at the Lit in downtown Champaign. And he just mentioned something like, oh, I'd always love to like do a record label. And I was like, yeah, that would be so fun to do. And then we kind of just did it. So there's not a really exciting story. And I remember saying like, oh, well, if we're going to do this, which it seems like we both want to do, we should just like have meetings every 2 weeks, which is like the most boring thing in the world. But we kind of did and stuck with it. And it took us about 6 months to get enough done to launch on that kind of schedule. And Pretzle Records was born.
So you bring up the name Pretzle Records. Where did that name come from?
We did workshop this a little. It's also slightly random and doesn't have as much of a fun story as I would like it to have. But part of, naming things like bands is that you have to pick something that no one's picked yet. So you're really constrained on like trying to come up with something good. Over 2 or 3 meetings when we were just getting started, we were just like coming in with ideas. We kind of hated them all. And I think I had searched Pretzle Records, but I had spelled it wrong. Nothing came up. And I was like, how is this possible? And then before I brought it in, I realized my mistake and was like, okay, well, it's spelled wrong, but it's still really cool. It kind of related to the band Snacked Out that we were in together. And Doug cooks. So there's like a fun food. I don't know. Sorry, my cat is
no, that's
needs all the pets.
Oh yeah, of course they do.
Yeah,
of course. I have to ask, what was the worst name you came up with?
Oh, can I look them up if you have a couple
that'd be awesome.
Because I have a note in my phone and they were terrible. Naming stuff is so hard. Let me see if I can search it quick. If not, I can just. I don't know if I'll be able to remember.
If anyone actually heard the bonus episode where I talked about Champaign is Also a Band, you may remember that I came up with some real stinkers. Some of my favorites were like, hum if you don't know the words. I knew I wanted to have a band name in it, but it was like, just...
Okay, I actually found this really quickly.
Nice.
Okay, I was like, well, we're in the Midwest and we have this like snacked out thing. I'm like, how can we cross those? So we have stuff like Corn Chip Records, Bag of Chips Records, available. Corn Syrup Records, Expansive Records, available. Crop Records, not available.
Crop Records.
Yeah, so Adhesive Records, Radhesive, both are available.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Snack Cake Records available. So anyways, it gets better. I'm just going to go real fast. So Cake Snack Records, Snack Mix Records, Puppy Chow Records, Cheese Fry Records, Ranch Dressing Records, Dressing Records. So anyways, we tried a lot of food stuff and Pretzel just made the most sense and was not terrible.
Yeah. Not only did you want to have a record label where you put out artists and where people could get physical media as well as exposure, I feel like you approach this with the idea of it being bigger than just a record label. Like it's there to support the local music community as well. So I'm wondering how that came about.
Yeah, I think when Doug and I originally sat down to do it, since we're both musicians, we kind of know how much it takes to be in a band, especially now, and all the like other stuff you have to do. And so we were like, we have the skill set to do that and help people in the scene locally. So that kind of was also driving us to do the label. And I mean, nowadays, who really knows what a record label does? I think after doing a ton of research into it, it's like every label is slightly different and will offer musicians and artists something different. So it took a lot of time to understand and work out like what we wanted to offer bands. And it was kind of just help with all those behind the scenes stuff, like doing promotions, getting merch made, making physical media, figuring out like digital distribution and streaming is like a whole mess. I think I watched like 1,000 YouTube videos on it. I have like a PhD in music business just from YouTube. And like untangling all of those things, which some of which I knew more about and some which I didn't, but we both learned together and wanted to just help people do that because we had some experience doing it. We had learned a bunch and just wanted to like give back.
So from beginning of concept to when you actually released, how long was that?
I think it was like 6 months. Yeah, with these like every other week meetings where we would just get together and like have a list of stuff that like we had either just learned about or wanted to figure out and just got divvied up tasks. We did a little bit of like market research, I guess. We did survey with a bunch of local musicians who we know. We post on our socials and just asked people to fill out a little form if they were in a band and like what they needed the most help with, like what they wanted to know more about, how they wanted to grow their projects, like what they thought a record label was, because we didn't know. We just wanted to find out. And that's something I like to do as a designer. I have a process when I do design work. It's like I always start with my audience and understand like what did they want? Like why would I build something if no one wants it? So I really make sure to understand like who I'm trying to reach, what context they kind of are part of, what they need help with. It's also called like need finding if you want to get nerdy about it. So I wanted to make sure, cool. I wanted to make sure that like we went through that kind of design process in designing a record label to make sure we're like meeting the needs of people out there. And I hope that we are. It's like an ongoing process. You
started out with reissuing on vinyl the Snacked Out album, Optical Illusion. I kind of looked at that as an opportunity for you already were familiar with the band because you're in the band, and then you could use it as a model for how you wanted to release things in the future as a record label as well as a band member that wanted to have something released. So I thought that was a good choice just because that's already something that you had access to. It wasn't like it was already recorded. It was something that, you could fulfill. I'm curious about that. Was that just kind of a slam dunk idea in general or?
Yeah, you hit on it a little bit when you said it's kind of like a practice run. It's definitely something we wanted to do first because we hadn't worked with other musicians before or other bands or artists. So it's way easier to do it when it's your band, which is why we did it. And we obviously just wanted our music on vinyl, which like who doesn't? So it was a good test run to kind of start to figure out like, okay, how do we do this? Like, what does a timeline look like? We wanted to do a show. So just like putting all of those things together and having just a good start. Like we know we had kind of like a fan base, so it was easy for us to just be like, okay, now this is a label, here's the first thing, like, and see how people responded. So it was kind of like a testing ground for sure.
You've released ASMR's EP, you've released Sweet Milk's EP, you just recently released Emily the Band, and I believe that Liz Allen is in the wings, ready to be recorded and put out there as well. Like, what have you been using as kind of the criteria? Sounds weird to say, but like when you choose these bands, what is the secret sauce that's making that fit within the Pretzle Records I don't know if you want to say like the vibe of Pretzle Records.
Good question. I'm glad you asked it. It's not something I can like list and say like these 5 criteria, because I think there's an art to it. It's something we're learning our way into. And it's also like our own skill sets and how we can support people. Some of the things we've like figured out to look for are if artists and musicians are like doing the work themselves. Like, are they promoting themselves? Are they playing shows? Are they playing shows outside of Champaign-Urbana? Because if it's a new artist, and this is something like a lot of artists have gotten in touch with us, which is amazing. And like, we would love to work with everyone, but it's turns out to be a lot of work to do all this stuff. So if the artist is already like there and they've put something out before, so they kind of know the process, and at that point we can come in and like boost them, because like we're not going to like break an artist. We're still a very small label that's only 6 months old, to be honest. So we don't have magic powers to say like, oh, this brand new band that just started is going to come to us and all of a sudden they're going to have like 1,000 fans. Like, we can't do that. We think of everything as a collaboration. If people are working, and when I say working, like the things I said before, like you're promoting yourself, you've put out music before, you like want to kind of make a go of it. We know it's very hard to like be a career artist. Like we didn't do it. We always kind of had music as a side thing, but we worked hard at it too. So we know kind of like how that balance works. So those are kind of the main things. I mean, the music has to be good. It has to be something we like. A lot of other labels will curate in a sense. So they'll do 1 or 2 genres, or there'll be some kind of thread that ties all of their artists together. I think for us now, that's just Central Illinois. We have listed indie and punk and hardcore on our socials and on our website. And that's just because that's the music Doug and I know. There's a hip hop scene here, and that's awesome. I just like don't have experience in the hip hop world. So that's not a direction we'll probably take the label. Shout out to all the hip hop people out there. I love what you're doing, but I just don't know enough to like come in and be like, I can help you, because it's just not my world. But like kind of the indie and punk and hardcore stuff is, and that is kind of a really big bucket too. And I think maybe down the line, when we do more releases and maybe, you know, grow a little bit, we can focus the curation more. But I don't know. I also like a lot of different types of music. So, and so does Doug, and we don't overlap on everything. So I think it's fun to kind of keep it genreless at this point.
You mentioned that it's been in existence for about 6 months. Where do you see it in, say, 5 years?
Great question. Right now, we love doing it. We both also have full-time jobs. And the music industry is, the more I learn about it, impossible to like really make a dent unless you have a lot of resources. And when I say resources, that means money. I think if we can just consistently be putting out new music, helping artists get that kind of first little boost. If, I don't know, maybe one artist does great and we work with them and they kind of like are able to grow and be big, and then we can say like we were a part of that, like that would be awesome. Even if they go on to some bigger label, like I would love to see that happen with any of our artists. But that's very long term. And I think if we like want to get into the business side of things, which is maybe boring, but I have an MBA, so like I think about this stuff a lot. If we could get to like actually making a profit and being able to reinvest in the label where it's more self-sustainable for us, and be able to build resources, when I say resources, money, so that we could like help bands even more, because that is one part of what it takes, unfortunately. Since we live in a capitalistic society, we can, you know, just continue to grow ourselves and therefore help artists grow even more. The more resources we can generate from the label. And yeah, 5 years, maybe. Who knows? Right. It's going to be a fun path.
One of the things that I found really remarkable is your attention to keeping the momentum of social media alive. And, you know, my brain does not necessarily work like that. So it's hard to see how it's possible to sustain it and even think about new things to talk about, or even maintain the things that you're talking about. The label releases, basically, I think it's on Monday, you release at least shows to pay attention to, or I
shows to know.
Shows to know. I mean, it's even so. it's one of those things where you're setting up a model where it's not just about the record label in itself, but more about how the record label fits into the overall scene, the overall impact of like the community. I really admire that, so I appreciate that. I'm curious where the idea of the shows to know, and like was this part of the original discussion about what the record label would be like, or is this something that's kind of, as the momentum of the record label goes, it's been something that kind of adds, like it continues to grow because of that?
Yeah. So shows to know, you're right. It was like definitely a social media thing. I'm going to start with social media because there's a lot here I could talk about. Maybe too much. I knew when we were planning out like kind of the business model of the label, what we wanted to offer artists. I'm like, oh boy, like we're going to have to get good at social media, Doug. And we were like, like, it's not either of our favorite thing. It's a weird place, especially right now, to be existing. I know a lot of people who are like, it's too much. And I'm like, I totally get it because it's a lot. But it is also how the music business works now. Like you have to be posting on social to grow an audience. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go figure this out. I use social media. I've never like done consistent posting or thought about it from a marketing perspective, but here we are. So if you've seen our socials, like I try and post every day. The shows to know was something I wanted personally. Like when I moved here 5 years ago, I was like, why isn't there like a place I can just see every event that's happening, or every like music event that maybe wasn't listed on Smile Politely or was listed somewhere else. And there didn't seem to be a place where like all the music I was into was kind of being curated. So it felt like just a need. So I'm like, I'm just going to do this. And I guess other people needed it too, because it's probably one of the best posts we do every week. And I love that people find out about shows that way. I've had people come up to me and be like, oh, shows to know. Like, that's how I like knew that like this show was happening that we're at right now. I'm like, that's awesome. Because I think it is definitely a good thing to have in a small community of music lovers and musicians alike. And I also wanted to grow it outside of just Champaign, because I think the other small towns around in central Illinois also have a lot of cool stuff going on, and they're not that far. Like, this is kind of like strategic and also personal, is like, Champaign is only so big. It's awesome. Like the music community here is amazing. I've lived all over the US, and like, it's a special place, and it has history of music, and it's still going strong. And I want to support that. I want to be a part of that. But I also want to see it grow. And the only kind of way I can see that is to kind of like bring in these other smaller communities to kind of make a region and make it be more regional, because that's a bigger audience is for the bands, not just in Champaign, but also in Peoria and in Springfield. And it's happening. Like bands move around, they play shows in other cities, and also up in Chicago. Like that's awesome too. I grew up in Chicago. I lived there a long time. But Shows to Know was meant to like really show that it's a bigger region. And I hope that people can, you know, go out and drive to Peoria for once a month to go see a show and like see what's going on over there. Because I think all those connections like help everybody get better. It helps grow the scene. It helps bands make connections. It helps people go on tours. It brings in, and I think if we do it good enough and people are like into the music and traveling and going to see and supporting in other cities, then that's going to shine a light on the region as a whole. And hopefully, like, you know, bigger bands will come here and play, and that'll be amazing. So this is my vision. But yeah, Shows to Know may be the very like seed that starts that, but I think it's a good start, and I love doing it. Like, I want to do more of it. I also should be posting more on social media. That's like in the back of my head every day, because it does work. Like, we grew the social media accounts in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months to over 1,000 followers. It's something I've never done. I feel like pretty proud of that. And I think everyone who follows us now, like, that's amazing. And I want to see it grow more so we can give our bands a bigger audience as well. So I'm going to work hard. I hate it, but I love it. It's like fun and not fun at the same time. If I'm in the right mindset, I'm like, oh, this is like making little movies, and like, that's cool. And I can like show people I went to a show, or like show people I did this at my desk. But then other days I'm like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to talk. I don't want to have to edit this. It's just like, what am I doing with my life? So yeah, it's like a love-hate thing, but it's a necessary evil, I think.
Social media is a weird beast, because instead of actually, I don't know, returning some kind of social energy, you have to find somewhere else to get that energy to be able to dump it back into the social media stream, as it were. So I don't know. If anyone can figure that one out, let me know.
Yeah, same.
But what makes Pretzle Records so special?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know yet. The first thing that comes to mind, though, is that we're from Central Illinois. And I think it's a cool place. I have a friend who I work with on the social media stuff. She's kind of like coaching me in a sense of like how to get good at it and like be okay on camera. But she's always like, why should people care about this place and the music? And I like, it's hard to like put that into words, which makes it hard to like story tell about it online too. So if anyone has answers, like, I mean, I think we all know, but it's hard to kind of like say why. My only answer is that like I've lived in Pittsburgh and I've lived in San Francisco in the Bay Area, and like there's people doing stuff there, but it's not like per capita as good or as like prominent as is happening here. But like that's not exciting to talk about. Those are just statistics. So it's hard to like say that. But I mean, we started the label to support the scene here in Central Illinois. That's not a problem, but like something I'm trying to put into words better, I guess.
You like nail down.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. I just don't know.
I can't necessarily put my finger on what exactly it is that makes it so special, but I mean, there's something about the fact that it's linked up with the University of Illinois, and so you have all these new people on kind of this 4-year rotation that are bringing in new ideas from different places, and then seeing the influence of the music that's here and then taking it back with them, or even miraculously staying here in Champaign-Urbana and deciding that this is where they want to start their life, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's always tricky using like the college language of like, now your life will begin. But it's so strange. Like, we've got such a unique DIY scene that every time I think that there's a bunch of DIY locations that are closing, there's always like one where I'm like, where did this one come? Like, I don't know. Where did that come from? And it's just like this, I don't know if it's because those people saw other house shows and then was like, I could probably do this. I could just get some equipment,
Yeah.
And I don't know, somehow it's this weird sustaining thing.
Yeah.
I just think is so unique. I'm really excited to see, Pretzle Records have this model of like focusing on what's happening here and then showcasing it. It's really unique in that way,
Call in with your answers.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking like, it's not like we don't have we've got polyvinyl here. So, I mean, it's not like we don't have you could call a major record label here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And it's great. And, I don't mean to draw comparisons, but it's their focus right now is this sustainable reaching out beyond just the Champaign-Urbana music scene. When here in Champaign-Urbana, I think that there is actually sustainable talent and musicianship that is worth recording and having people buy and support and follow, even if they leave the scene, like leave the Champaign-Urbana area and continue to make music, like there's an element of that Champaign-Urbana that sticks with them that, I don't know. I just find it really exciting, but
yeah, same.
I mean,
yeah. And I think that's great. Like the fact that people come here, experience it, and then like are going to like evangelize. That's a terrible word, but like,
yeah,
I met someone in Pittsburgh right before I moved here who had lived in Urbana and just moved to Pittsburgh. So we were like on this opposite path, and they were saying like, oh my God, I'm so excited for you to move to Champaign-Urbana because it's so great. And I miss it already. And I left like a month ago. And I'm just like, what? And to be 100% honest, I was not excited to move here. I've lived in big cities my whole life. I consider myself such like an urbanite, and coming to a small town and just like being like, oh, okay, like I guess there's just corn now and this is my life. And then like I've completely gone 180 once I discovered all the people here in the music scene and like lots of other things, and it just makes it so great. Something about this place is like a good testing ground for like any sort of creative idea, and I couldn't list why, but maybe one thing would be like when I was in Chicago, like I never would have said I'm going to start a record label because like it feels so big. It's like there's a million people, and I was like in the music scene there for a long time. And it felt like I was always like not quite breaking through just in Chicago because it's a huge city, right? And it was a scene, sure. I like knew a lot of people. You go to shows, you see the same people, but not in the way it is here. And I think here it feels like it's the right size so you can like do something, but not feel like you have to compete with everyone to like get noticed.
Right.
And maybe that's how it is. And bands too. I think it's like you can start a band and like all of a sudden you have kind of like a group of friends and it's not as competitive, or like you're not trying to compete for like the Saturday show at the big venue, because it's just all accessible and people support each other in a really awesome way. So I don't know, that's maybe one reason why you could think it's just a good kind of like place to try stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I definitely felt like, of course I can try this. Like there's nothing to stop me. And that was really cool. Whereas in other places, I never really felt that way.
You've been in existence for 6 months. You've thought about it for a long time as well. Is there anything that like was a big surprise to you? Yeah.
So like my biggest fear, and Doug's as well, we're like, okay, we've never been on a record label. Like none of my bands have ever, well, okay, one was signed, quote unquote. We got signed like right before the pandemic. Then I moved away. I was in Pittsburgh. I moved away from Pittsburgh. The band ended. So nothing really happened. So that was my only experience of being signed, quote unquote. But yeah, so Doug and I were like, okay, we're going to do this. Like, we don't really have a lot of experience. Like, we've been in bands, sure. Everyone's been in bands. Doug has some tour management experience, which to me feels more than what I have. And so I was like so concerned. And I think that drove like the part of me like asking people, like, what do you need from us? Like asking bands, talking to bands, when I didn't realize that like the other half of the puzzle is like getting people to listen to new music and to sell records to people who would like the bands or haven't heard of the bands. I mean, that's the thing we're all trying to unlock, right? Is like, how do you find a new audience for your music or grow an audience for your music? And that is the hardest challenge that we have and that people at bands have. I think by working together, we can do better, which is why we learned a ton about promotion, tried to figure that out. But I remember that we'd made our like first announcement post. I was like, who's going to want to even work with us? These bands are not going to care. They don't know us that well. We've been in town a few years. Like, we have our connections, but like, whatever. And like the second we posted the first post, like, I think 8 to 10 bands and artists like immediately reached out and were like, I need your help. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I should have known this. I've been in bands. Like, I should have known. Of course, like everyone in a band needs help doing this stuff that we're going to try and help them to do. So that was kind of funny. I was like, duh, Julie, yeah. And now I'm so focused on the other half now of like figuring out promotions, figuring out how to get streams, like this whole mess of the other side of the music business that no one wants to deal with. But we're slowly untangling and getting some experience doing. So that shouldn't have been, but was a surprise.
I don't know what you want to call it. This is the thing, is like, on streaming platforms, like becoming part of a playlist. I like it's still, I don't know how that all works, but I don't know. That just seems tedious. Yeah, it's still something I'm trying to figure out too. I mean, there are services out there, some of which are very shady, who are like, pay us $100 and we'll get you on 10 playlists, and they're all run by robots. And then you actually do yourself worse, because then you get no streams and get like banned from Spotify or whatever. So yeah, that's a whole world that's weird. We've had success with doing paid advertising a little. You can also like pitch to Spotify and all the streamers. Like when you're releasing your songs, there's like things, we have a digital distributor we work with that you can like send a little paragraph about why you're so great and all the other accomplishments you have and why they should put you on an editorial playlist. But like, none of our artists are ever going to be at that level, or aren't. I mean, never say never. Right. Currently are not at that level where like
Spotify editors are like, oh, this band in Central Illinois, like we should put them on the top indie playlist. Like, no.
Right.
So there's smaller versions of that. I think there's surprisingly still, and to me this feels a little crazy because like stuff that happened when I was younger in like the early 2000s where, you know, there were like blogs and there were like, you know, zines, and there was like smaller kind of DIY word of mouth people who just knew a lot about music and they were your friend's friend and they would, you know, post on Facebook or something. Like a lot of those things kind of still exist and I think they still work pretty well. I saw some stuff recently just scrolling through Instagram because now I get fed all this like music business and music promotion content, some of which is good, some of which is not. This person had done like a survey of a lot of new music listeners, and that's like a very small group of people, to be honest, and most of them are other musicians. But they still say like word of mouth, like they hear from their friend about a cool new band and like then they put them on a playlist and maybe they have 10 to 100 people following their little playlist. So there's still like this low level of just like people who love music, people who are open to share if you reach out directly to them. Unfortunately, that's like a lot of labor that we're still trying to figure out how to like get better at or optimize in a weird way. Places like NTW Zine, like Pass Down Magazine, like those resources are great. And that's like a kind of a cool way to get the word out, even if it's just in this region. But there's like stuff like that all over. So it's just kind of finding those weird little niches and like getting in contact with people and getting them to like talk about your band in any way digitally or buy an album. And there's still like radio stuff, which is wild. Right. And I don't know how many people are listening to the radio, but we've had stations reach out and we're like, yes, please like play these songs. That's awesome. So I think there's still a lot of that more traditional media happening, which may be having a resurgence because of how terrible social media is now and how much people don't like Spotify. Like, yeah, I hear you. I think they're doing terrible things for the music business as a whole, but it's kind of like what we have to work with. So the fact that there's these other things is like pretty cool and feels like more DIY and kind of against the grain, which is like very punk rock or whatever.
Right.
And that's great.
Champagne is also a band podcast is proud to support Jubilee Cafe. Jubilee Cafe is a free weekly meal program at Community United Church of Christ, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign, Illinois. Jubilee Cafe serves a home-cooked meal from 5 to 6:30 each Monday. Their mission is to feed hungry people by cooking healthy, delicious meals and by serving their guests restaurant-style with servers waiting on tables. Jubilee Cafe is open to anyone who cares to eat with them. Because food insecurity among students is so high, they serve students as well as others in and around the Champaign-Urbana community who struggle with hunger. Meals are free to all and will be served each Monday evening, located in the accessible lower level of the building at 6th and Daniel Streets in Champaign. For more information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email them at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. That's jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. Welcome back. So, of course, Julie, what is your favorite Champaign-Urbana venue, past or present?
I don't think I've been here long enough to see any close, which is very good because I hear stories of other people telling me all the great ones that existed before I lived here. I'm sad I couldn't experience them, but that's so hard. Do I have to pick one? Can I do like a top three?
Go ahead, do top three. That's great.
I mean, obviously the space, because Doug is part of Pretzle Records and he's done a great job with the space and creating a new space for people to play music, come together, be community oriented, and delicious food. Like, who doesn't love that? I love the Loose Cobra. I remember going there for the first time and I was like terrified. I'm like, my friend Mary was like, you have to go to this place. I'm like, where are we going when it's like dark and there's like nothing here? And I'm like, is this safe? And then I walked in and had like the best time of my life.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Not to put a weird spin on that, but that used to be called the Dead Horse Inn.
Oh, just even scarier.
but it's next to the library.
Yeah,
so
that reassured me when we parked in front of the library. I was like, okay, this seems okay. But it's like my favorite place, and Matt's awesome, and I love playing there. Sounds like it's just such a magical little who would have guessed situation. Right. So that is a good one. And C4A. I go to every show at C4A. I love it so much. Johnny's awesome putting on those shows. All the bands are really cool. I love that it's like a fun thing I can do whenever it happens. I'm always there. So
between the Space and Loose Cobra and then C4A, I appreciate the fact that C4A makes an effort to have an all ages show. I appreciate that it gives people an opportunity to be in a safe space and not be limited by their age. Age is a weird gatekeeping kind of thing right now. And I don't know if a lot of people think about that, but it's like, who knows if somebody that's like, 16 wants to go to a hardcore show and just hear something new, something they haven't heard, a positive way to express themselves. I think about my own experience of like, if I would have been able to see more people in a positive way, use their creativity to excite people and like, I don't know, motivate and tell their own stories. I might have been on a different path, but I'm here where I am. So I can't say, but I feel like that's something that's really important. So I always have to say something about that because I appreciate those all ages spaces, drug and alcohol free. And like, it's a spot where a kid can go like literally and be in a good spot and you don't have to worry about them, you know? I mean,
yeah, I mean, and I see people of all ages at those shows too. Like for me, I'm very long out of college. So like, I love the house show scene and like, we love supporting them with the list and everything. But like, I personally feel a little strange, like going to the house shows. Let me know house shows if you want an old lady there. But I love that C4A is like really kind of all ages, anyone, like it's truly an open place to be. I'm sure the house shows would be fine if I was there, but maybe it's a me thing.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, I'm always like, oh, they'll just assume that one of the performers is my kid or something like that. So which one is yours? None.
I'm just here. But keep doing house shows. Like, yes. I like that it exists. I want it to continue to exist. I want it to grow. Like, I know it has a history of being around U of I, and like, I have friends who went to college here, and they ask me like, "Oh, is this one house like still having shows?" And I'm like, I don't think so. But that was like such a huge part of their experience here, like however many years ago. So I love that that's still happening and is still like, I mean, it's another like great testing ground to like be in a band and like get your start playing and like be in a punk band, be in a hardcore band, be in an indie band and like go out and play all these house shows. That's awesome.
What do you think makes a good music scene?
Oh boy. I think we touched on it a little.
Yeah.
I guess I can just sort of reiterate like bands like playing in their city and also expanding beyond to like take the energy of our scene and like bring it to other scenes and like make all those connections. I think that is good for everyone, even if it's Chicago. I love Chicago. I live there. If Pretzle Records could get people in Chicago to look at Central Illinois and be like, wow, cool stuff is happening here. Like there's great music. That would be like just a win. Maybe that's our 5-year plan. I don't know. But I think that we all have to work together to like get the word out. And to do that is just making more connections and playing with other bands, doing mixed genre bills and just like working together, collaborating, all of those things. And I think that's like what we're doing. I mean, right. That's why it's great.
Well, I can't necessarily speak to other scenes, but one of the things that I love about Champaign-Urbana is that there does seem like there's a concerted effort to have a mixed genre show where it's like you start off with like a solo singer-songwriter and then you've got hip-hop and then you've got hardcore and then you've got somebody that's alternative and then you've got some country thrown in there, and it's like being able to go to a show that has that. It's like the most micro festival ever, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And there's just something about that where it's just like, who doesn't like a buffet, right?
Yeah.
So get a taste of everything, and you know.
Exactly. And like promote each other. I think I see that sometimes, and that's always great because what is it like? A rising tide raises all boats or whatever. Yeah. And I think that we can all work together to like get the attention of people outside of the scene or people who have left to look back and be like, oh, cool stuff's still happening. I should tell my friends. And that is good. So that is my call to action for all listeners. Like, tell your friends who don't live here how cool it is, even if you don't know exactly why, because I think that helps us all grow and get better and reach new people who can be a part of it, even if it's from afar.
Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week, they can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. Welcome back. So, Julie, what is your favorite non-musical thing or things?
I'm going to say travel. I love to travel. I grew up traveling. I feel like my parents trained me to like be good to go on tour because we did so many road trips and I have family all over the country. So we were constantly like traveling and visiting with them. So I travel a lot, sometimes for my full-time job and sometimes just for fun. I love to go many different places. I have a long list of where I want to go and I'm like constantly on the road. So I love touring. Don't get to do as much as I would like, but I think just my daily life sometimes feels like a tour and I want to keep it that way. So yeah, travel.
What's your favorite place that you've been to?
I love Korea, South Korea. I love Seoul. I've been there like 4 times. We're going there in May. Eric and I are going to go to Taiwan to visit his mom. We're going to do a weekend in Seoul. Taipei is also awesome. I didn't know how much I would like it until I was there. Amazing. If you can get there, it's great. I love Montreal. I went there a few times. Very cool city. I travel a lot to California, mostly for my work, but I also have friends out there and I'm in a band out there. So I go back and forth a lot and California is a great place to visit. It's a hard place to live, as I experienced when I lived there, just because it's expensive. But really cool if you can just visit all the time. Highly recommend it if you want to just, I don't know, see gorgeous land and beaches and the ocean. Get out there. I want to go more into Europe. I haven't done as much in Europe. I've been to Amsterdam. I've been to Scotland. That's kind of it. So I want to get over there more. I've been to Japan. Unfortunately, there was a typhoon when I was there, so I didn't get to do much. So I'd like to go back.
It kind of puts a damper on things, I would guess. Yeah.
I think I just told you all the places I've been without picking one that I like the best.
No. I mean, yeah, it's just as I get older, I get a little less travel minded, I guess. I don't know.
Most people do. I think I'm a weird exception. I don't have kids.
I mean, that does help. Definitely. Julie, thank you for being on the show and telling me about Pretzle Records and the Champaign-Urbana music scene and your favorite non-musical things. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we could do this. Thank you for listening to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. This is Julie from Pretzle Records, reminding you, great music is out there. Go find it where you live. guess it's just corn now, and this is my life.
That's a wrap.
Champagne is also a band.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
South Peter on the inside.
Corn Syrup Records. Expansive Records available. Crop Records not available.